How about this next fight? Speaking of Japanese MMA, right? Hatsu Hioki, one of the best representatives for Japanese MMA. I think he's in super tough here against Darren Elkins, though. Hatsu, 26 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws. Darren Elkins, 16 wins and 3 losses. Hioki coming off a split decision loss to Clay Guida and is on a 2-fight losing skid. Now 2-2 in the UFC. Darren Elkins was knocked out in the first round by Chad Mendes on April 20th, taking that fight on short notice. He is now 6-2 in the UFC since 2010. Hioki is 30 years old. Elkins is 29. Hioki's been fighting since 2002, while Elkins made his MMA debut in 2007. Elkins is a wrestler from Hobart, Indiana. Hatsu Hioki, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from Japan. With 12 of 26 wins by submission, 10 decisions, and 4 knockouts. Elkins has 7 knockouts to his record, with 6 decision victories and 3 submissions. I think if Hatsu is going to win this fight, he's going to have to get a submission. And that is not out of the realm of possibility. Elkins was submitted by Charles Oliveira in 2010. But I don't believe Hatsu Hioki will be able to submit Darren Elkins. I think Darren Elkins will be too strong and too good of a wrestler and too good on top positionally and also too good with his hands. I think that Elkins is a superior striker, maybe by a very slight margin over Hatsu Hioki, but definitely a better wrestler. Hioki's very crafty on the ground. He's got good submissions, and he can definitely, fool you, but coming off losses now to Ricardo Lamas, to Clay Guida, he was out-wrestled. And I believe he will be put on his back and out-wrestled again by a guy who's made his bread and butter out-wrestling people. I think it's a bad matchup stylistically for Hatsu Hioki, and unfortunately, this guy who was a former number 1 contender at featherweight but decided not to take the title fight because he wasn't ready, now maybe looking at a 2-3 record in the UFC and an exit from the promotion with a losing record. You don't stick around in the UFC for very long. Maybe Hatsu should have taken that shot at Jose Aldo while he had the chance. You never know what could have happened in that fight, and at least you would have got a big payday out of it. But now, 2 straight losses. If he gets a 3rd straight loss, it could be rough for Hatsu Hioki going forward as far as a contract with the UFC goes. I like Darren Elkins to win this fight. Most likely a 3-round unanimous decision.
You make a lot of good points, but I'm going to stick with my original pick of Hatsu Hioki.
Yes, I'm actually quite happy you're picking Hatsu Hioki because I love Hatsu Hioki. I love his fighting style. I love him as a fighter, and I want him to win this fight. I just don't believe he will.
And like I said, you make a lot of good points, but I think if you look at who he lost to losing to Clay Guida and Ricardo Lamas, those are tough fighters, so Hioki still could keep his head up. If he beats a guy like Darren Elkins, puts him right back in the mix of the top 5, top 10 guys at 145.
Yeah.
And like you say, he's very crafty. I like his style, so I'm hoping he finds a way to pull it off.
But the way I kind of see the fight playing out, you can see it playing out that way too, right?
Like I say, you make a lot of good points. You almost convinced me. But
I think it could go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be a Hatsu Hioki submission or a Darren Elkins decision victory. And, we're going to find out once that fight hits the ground. Once Hatsu Hioki's back hits that mat, we're going to find out how the fight's going to go down. And I think we can agree on that. You're going to take Hatsu to pull off, the submission, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I would say by submission or probably just being more of a veteran. But with that said, Darren Elkins is a very tough fighter also, and I don't see him really being outsmarted in the cage. He's a smart fighter also. But no, it's a sentimental pick. I'm going with Hioki trying to come back on the winning side of things.
All right. Well, Kevin and I both picked Darren Elkins. Fred's going to go with Hatsu Hioki.
Hey, everybody, this is Roger Bowling, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Darren Elkins, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Brandon Ruckus Thatch, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
It's Justin Edwards, 8-2 as a professional, taking on the UFC debuting Brandon Thatch. He is 9-1 on an 8-fight win streak coming into his UFC debut. He has 9 wins, all by finish. 6 knockouts, 3 submissions. His last fight was a first-round submission win over a 5-0 fighter, now 5-1, a guy named Mike Rhodes on March 22nd in Colorado. Thatch is from Denver, Colorado, trains at the Grudge Training Center over there with the world-famous Trevor Whitman. He also came here to the TriStar Gym in Montreal to train with George St. Pierre. GSP actually enlisted this guy to mimic Carlos Condit and help him train for Carlos Condit when they fought here in Montreal in November. So Thatch has trained with some of the best in the world at 170 pounds. He's just 28 years old. As I said, on an 8-fight win streak, his lone loss was a split decision to a 6-2 fighter named Brandon Magana in 2008 in just his second pro fight. I mean, stringing 8 wins together after that is very impressive. All finishes as well. This dude is very impressive. I actually had the opportunity to watch him fight here in Montreal for the Instinct MMA promotion, and he steamrolled right through some very tough guys. So Brandon Thatch is a top prospect, and I like him to win in a major way. Justin Edwards, I think the only real problem that Thatch will run into with Edwards is the fact that the guy's never been knocked out. He's got a sturdy chin. He's 2-2 in the UFC, 30 years old, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, a guy with a good ground game, and you know, a tough dude who submitted Josh Neer in the first round in his last fight. But his last fight was a long time ago, October of 2012. So 10 months since his last fight, and I think Justin Edwards is going to be in trouble here against Brandon Thatch. I think that Thatch is going to come through and show people why he is such a highly touted prospect. This guy, you know, all the hype behind guys like Uriah Hall and Conor McGregor, the hype should be going to Brandon Thatch. This dude is a beast, and I think he's going to prove something and finish Justin Edwards. I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to knock out Justin Edwards and have Edwards his first ever knockout loss, his first ever finish loss as well. Edwards has lost twice, both by decision, but not the best fighters in the world beating him. Clay Harvison beat him in 2011, John McGuire beating him later that year. And by the way, Harvison, McGuire, neither of them are still under contract with the UFC. I like Brandon Thatch. He is my lock of the night. He is my guarantee pick. I believe he will win 100%. Don't know the odds yet. As we said, odds not out yet for the prelim card, but when they do come out, if he's the underdog, jump all over him. And even if he's not, if it's anywhere under, say minus 300, I would take Brandon Thatch in a major way. This dude is my lock of the night. He is a beast, and he's going to impress people, I think, in a major way here against Justin Edwards.
I got Brandon Thatch also. I agree. He's a very talented young fighter that should win his first UFC fight. If we look at his record, 9-1, 6 wins under a minute, 4 under 20 seconds.
Woo.
So
he's a beast.
He doesn't. He likes to do things quick. So let's expect Brandon Thatch to come out with guns blazing and trying to knock out his opponent.
He's my lock of the night. And by the way, Fred, he's the only guy that you, Kevin, and I have picked so far on this card. Every other fight we're split one way or another, but so far, oh no, actually we all picked Zach Cummings. Yeah, you're right. Well, either way, he's my lock of the night. I like Brandon Thatch. You think he's gonna finish Justin Edwards? I think he will. I don't think it'll be that tough for him either.
I'll tell you what, we talked about it earlier with Diego Brandao and Conor McGregor. If Brandon Thatch wants to make a statement, Justin Edwards is the type of guy that he needs to finish and finish without problems.
I think he will. I think this is going to be a statement type fight for Brandon Thatch.